Hi everyone, I'm Robert Sain and I'm here in the garden today. You may think this is a strange time to be in the garden. It's winter time, almost winter. It'll be winter officially in just a couple of weeks. But it feels like winter outside. We've already had some snow in the mountains and we finally had a killing frost here. But I wanted to talk a little bit today about that the fall garden, the winter garden, what you do in the fall and the winter has a whole lot of impact upon what your garden's going to be like in the spring and the summer. First of all, let me just show you what how some of our plants are doing. You saw back in August is when I transplanted a lot of these, and later on I sowed some things. But here we have, you can see the broccoli that's growing. There's also Brussels sprouts. You can see the little Brussels sprouts there on as the stem comes up out of the ground. They're forming. I'm thinking we will have Brussels sprouts by Christmas. We also have cabbage that is finally heading. It's a little later. I'm hoping that it's going to make. If not, I can grind the leaves up and make slaw out of a bunch of this stuff, but I think they're going to be small heads, but they will head. And we've got some collards, a couple collard heads. In addition, you can see there's 3 different crops of spinach. You can't really tell the difference. And then there's also lettuce that our dog decided to lie down in one afternoon before I caught him, but that's okay. And then we have mustard greens. Here are some older mustard greens, and then here are some younger ones. Mustard greens, I love to eat them, but they also provide, when you chop them up, the leaf up, and then turn that into the soil immediately. You have to do it immediately. It acts as a soil fumigant. It will actually help get rid of nematodes. It's also good to follow tomatoes or potatoes, anything like that with mustard greens. It also does a good job of, it doesn't kill or get rid of squash bugs, but squash bugs don't like the mustard green in the soil, and so they act almost as a repellent, so it's good to follow squash and some other things with mustard greens. Also, here you can see some cowpeas that's mixed in with mustard greens. Cowpea is a legume, and they actually help take nitrogen out of the air and fix it into the earth, where the next crop will have that availability of nitrogen to it. And of course, one of the other things that a winter cover crop does is, or for that matter, any time you put a cover crop in, is they help to break the cycle of weeds. So they actually crowd out and shade out weeds, and over time it helps so that they will not continue to keep reseeding. So where you use cover crops on a regular basis, that can happen. You may be wondering what this looking in the garden and talking about cover crops, how does that translate to talking about Advent? Well, it does here on the second Sunday when we're introduced to the figure of John the Baptist, who came to prepare the way of the Lord. And so I'm looking at my fall and winter garden, cover crops, and also growing things to eat as a way of preparing the garden for spring, preparing the soil, helping the soil to recover from the work that it's done over the course of the spring and the summer by producing vegetables. It needs to be replenished with nutrients. It also needs to be replenished with organic matter. So all these things, whether it's the peas or the mustard greens, whatever it is, that will be turned back into the soil and it will provide organic matter. So I think the way that you, in some respects, preparations for your spring and summer garden are actually made this time of the year. that's kind of what John the Baptist did. When he came, it was certainly a lengthy time before Jesus actually went about the countryside teaching and healing, and ultimately going into Jerusalem, where he suffered and died and rose on the third day. But those preparations were essential and were necessary. So I hope you're preparing your life, your mind, and your heart, not just for Christmas. We're all probably doing that as we're able. But let's prepare ourselves for the coming of Christ again. I told you back at the beginning, you probably figured out that even though I'm here in the garden, I'm actually not in the garden. This is actually a green screen that you can't see. The images of the garden are behind me. But I'm using this as a way today to hopefully teach some of you how you can videotape some things for our Christmas pageant this year. Like if your family's going to be shepherds or wise men or angels, whatever role, go to the dollar store, pick you up some green tablecloths, tape it up on the wall, and film your family doing those things that they're going to do. If they're shepherds, they're out in the fields watching over their flock by night, or they're kneeling at the manger. The angels are outstretched arms looking down upon the shepherds, looking down upon the Christ child. The angel Gabriel is looking at individuals several different times in the Christmas story. Mary and Joseph are traveling. Then they arrive at the manger, and it's a traditional manger scene that we can remember. And then Herod, of course, was afraid of the birth of a rival king, and so he's sitting on a throne. Then we have the Magi who are traveling, journeying, and then they come to the Christ child bearing gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So if you're filming that, try using a green screen. It'll make it a little bit easier for me to edit and provide some background that will look like the Christmas pageant. Thanks a lot for joining me today in the garden and talking a little bit about creating videos for a Christmas pageant. Looking forward to seeing you at church on Sunday, or actually seeing your car there. We do our parking lot service. This week we are going to be live streaming from inside the sanctuary for at least a part of the service. So I hope to see you then. Bye-bye.